And that way I know who I'm talking to. It's a big hall, right? So I just want to make sure. So come on. Don't worry, I don't bite. At least in Malaysia, I don't bite yet. Okay. So when we do Simran, what we're doing actually is called Saas Giras Simran. There's no wrong way to do Ustat of Waiguru. Like a lot of time I heard you guys doing Seva. You said Satnam Vaheguru, Satnam Vaheguru. If you look over there, and I'm happy to go through the Santya, everyone here can read Gurmukhi or can't read Gurmukhi? Who can't read Gurmukhi? Okay, can't, right? But if you look over there, there's no Dolama on the H in Wahe. So it's not Wahe, it's actually Sihari, right? So you actually, sorry, it's Bihari. So you actually get a short E sound. So when you do it, it's actually supposed to be done in 2 akkar or 2 syllables. There's a reason why it's done in 2 akkar, 2 syllables. There's no wrong way to say Waiguru, but there is a right way to do Saas Giras Simran. When you do Saas Giras Simran, Gurbani tells us, as we do Simran, Saas Giras is very important. It's the beginning state for every Sikh. There's Saas Giras, there's Sasas, there's Rom Simran, and finally, as we go through things, we get more knowledge once our mind gets to Shabad. So, Gurbani says we can't understand anything until our mind is Jagat. That means our mind is awake. So, let's close our eyes for 4 or 5 minutes. Let's have full concentration. Let's do Saas Giras perfectly so we can just begin doing the Simran. Wah, Guru, 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 Wah, Guru. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So, how many of you were perfectly concentrated when you did it? Your mind didn't move at all? Or was your mind taking a lot of thoughts? Now, a couple of things, the reason why that happens, I want to go through them because today's theme is actually Dubda. And we're going to cover why the mind moves the way it does. Yesterday, we covered one thing. We talked about the soul, we talked about the mind, and we talked about the body. Now, your soul is basically your God stuff in you. It's the stuff that Waheguru has inside of you. That means that your soul is no different than Waheguru. So, does the soul get hungry? Yes or no? Does Waheguru get hungry? So why would your soul get hungry? Do you need to feed your soul? You can only feed something that gets hungry, right? Okay, does your soul feel pain or suffering? Does the soul get sad? Does Waheguru get sad? No. What happens is, does your soul need liberation? Yes or no? Does God need liberation? But the soul is the same thing as God. So does your soul need liberation? No. So what gets sad? What needs to be fed? What needs to go ahead and get liberated? Gurbani tells us it is the mind. The mind is the thing that is dukhi. It is the mind that needs liberation. And it is the mind that is looking for its food. And what happens is when this mind confuses the things that the body needs with what it needs, that's the moment where the mind gets stuck. Okay, so let's walk through it. How many times do you think you're just convinced that you're just your body? Many people just say, I was talking to a Muslim guy one time, he said, no, the only thing there is the body. And God can't live in you, that's about it. None of this mind stuff, etc. So I asked him a question. I said, what makes a person? What makes a person and who you are is the mind. So I'll give you an example. Anyone here own a dog? Okay. So Benji, you have a dog, right? Okay. When your dog dies, are you going to stuff the dog and put it in the family room and say, oh, that's my dog? Why not? Because that's not the dog. The body is not the dog. What you love is the mind of the dog, right? Now, your dog, does it ever get angry? Yes, okay. Dog sometimes is greedy, right? Your dog, does it love? Yes or no? Yes. So now you get angry, you're greedy, you love, you're very compassionate, the dog is very compassionate. What's the difference between you and a dog then? There's a big difference. One person can get to Waheguru, one person can't. I'll give you a very simple example. In Gurbani it says, man is given char padarthas. That means that man can procreate when he wants. Man can establish wealth. Do you see any dogs setting up businesses? No, right? They don't set up banking exchanges for the dogs, right? Man can do that. Animals can't. Do you see dogs establishing their own church? Right? Their own belief in God? Animals can't establish dharam. Therefore, a dog cannot get liberated. Okay? I'm going to walk you guys through some stuff because I think it's important. I'm going to ask you these questions because you were just doing Simran, and Gurbani says, Waheguru makes you do the Simran. But the question is, who is listening to the Simran? If the mind is the driver of the body, who drives your mind? Without a mind, as Panji explained, with her dog passed away, or it hasn't passed away yet, but if the dog didn't have a mind, you wouldn't go ahead and keep the dog, right? The dog needs a mind in order to work. So the question is, if the mind is the driver of the body, who is the driver of the mind? Did you ever think about these things? Why do you do what you do? Now you came to the Samelan. You went ahead, came to the Darbar. You're here for this lecture. But who drove your mind here? When you don't listen, who's taking your mind away? If you're thinking about something else in the daytime, rather than being here, who's taking the mind away? Then Gurbani gives the answer. It says, Simre Kal, Akal Sucha Socha. It says there are two things that drive you. One is Kal, one is Akal. One makes you Such, meaning makes you pure, one doesn't. Yesterday we covered the three gunas of Maya. We covered Tregun Maya. And we explained that the mind becomes polluted when it enters into the three gunas of Maya. That this mind, it loses itself when it's not there. Where we keep our dhyan in something, that determines our dharam. I'll give you an example. How many people here did Nithanem this morning? Raise your hand. Okay, you did the Nithanem. Was your mind present the whole time for the Nithanem? So did you do the Nithanem? Gurbani says, Tol Tram Diaka Poot Sintokta Prakya Jinsut, right? That this dharam, it comes from the compassion of Waheguru, meaning Waheguru has made this compassion of dharam for us. And our mind, without dhyan, has no attention or focus. There cannot be dharam without dhyan. That means if you're not into it, if you're not focused, if you have no attention placed in it, whatever you're doing is poke, Gurbani says. It's empty. It's worthless. So the question I had for everyone who just walked in, if the mind is the driver of the body, who drives the mind? And Gurbani gives a beautiful explanation. It says, within us is Kal, and within us is Akal. Everybody knows who Akal is? Akal is who? Who is Akal? Can anyone tell me? Who is Akal? It is Waheguru. Waheguru is Akal. Waheguru is our soul. Waheguru is Ajuni. Waheguru is placed in the body. We are placed within Waheguru's body. Har ke tan hai, tan ke har hai. Waheguru is living in us, and we are living in Waheguru. Okay? Now, next thing is, have you heard the term Kal before? Yes or no? Okay, what is Kal? Kiji? No. Kal is not time. So, when they go over time, like there's other words in Punjabi for time. So if Waheguru is Akal, then what is Kal? It says Kal is the governor of Maya in Gurbani. It says Sunya Pauna Sake Kal. So when you say Sunya, how can Kal die when you listen? Sunya Pau na Sake Kal. You read that in Japji Sahib. So if you put the definition as time, then how can time die? When it says Kal Kantakamaya, when it says that this Kal dies, when you listen to the Shabad, how can time be the right definition? What is the definition of Kal? Kal is the governor of Maya. You see, the purpose of our life is to meet Waheguru. We read it every day in Nithanem. Be Prabhat, Manik Tuwaria, Govind Milanki, Eteri, Badya. Everything you do, when you're not focusing on that goal, is dubda. This is the definition given in Gurbani. I'll give you an example. You guys are sevadars. Why did you come to do the seva? What was the motivation? Was the motivation to reach God, or was the motivation for something else? If you're looking for a life partner, if you're looking for your own praise, if you're looking so you can feel good, are you going there for the reason you were meant to go? If the purpose of your life is to meet God, and you haven't reached the purpose, what are you going to teach? You're here to do seva, but is the seva become selfish, or is the seva selfless? This is the things that we have to ask. Then you have to ask yourself, My mind drove my body here. My mind made me buy the ticket to come here. My mind told my body, get in the car over here. But what drove your mind to come here? What drove your mind to come here? What were your motivations for coming? Gurbani says this: before you came into this world, it was written that you are destined to die. By the way, who here is going to die one day? Do you remind yourself of that all the time? Look at your actions every day. Are your actions that of a dead person, or are your actions that of a schemer? We love to scheme, make the plans. All the money you save in your bank account, all the planning that you do. If you die, what's going to happen? Anything going to happen? Now let's close our eyes, let's reflect on this, then we'll take the next step. Let's do a little bit of Simran. Wah, Guru, Wah, Guru, Wah, Guru. Wah, Guru, Wah.
Guru, Why Guru, Why Guru, Why Guru, Why Guru, Why Guru, Why Guru.
Why Guru, Why Guru, Why Guru, Why Guru, Why Guru, Why Guru, Why Guru. Oi Guru, 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 Oi Guru. Oi Guru, 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 Oi Guru. Oi Guru, 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 Oi Guru. Oi Guru Ji Ka Khalsa, Oi Guru Ji Fateh. You're going to have to forgive me. I'm a little bit under the weather, so I just had to sit down for a bit. But I just want to go over some basic stuff for you guys. First thing is, Gurbani tells us you came into this world destined to die. Now you have a choice. How are you going to die? Are you going to learn how to die into Shabad Guru? Or, and be Mukath from Lakcharasi Jun? From the cycle of life and death? Or are you going to get stuck in Maya? Now when we talk about death, let me give you an example. I was talking to my wife one day, okay, just to make it very simple. And one day we were going through a store. I don't know if you guys have this store, Costco. Do you guys have Costco? So Costco is like a big warehouse where you can buy anything you want. There's a lot of stuff and a lot of good deals. Indian people love going there. Chinese people love going there because they love saving money, and it's kind of a fun place to go and a fun place to go see things, okay? And when I was looking at the thing, I saw a sweater over there, and my wife looked at me, and she saw me staring at the sweater. And she goes, Simmer, she goes, don't worry about the money. I'll buy you the sweater if you like the sweater. And I told my wife, I go, I'm not looking at the sweater thinking, should I spend the money? I'm looking at the money, I'm looking at the sweater asking myself, do I need this or do I want this? Do I need this or do I want this? I'll walk you through some very easy things. You have, what's kind of your standard car over here? Toyota is a standard car, or what's like low-end car? Moto? What is it? Photon. Okay, Photon. Yeah, my friend had his battery stolen from the Photon. It's a very secure car, very good. Okay? The Photon. Is the Photon for the mind or the body? The job of the Photon is to get you from destination A to destination B. Is the car for the mind or the body? It's for the body. How many people say it's for the mind? Raise your hand. How many people say for the body? Raise your hand. Okay. So Photon is for your body. Now, all of a sudden, Photon's good enough because you only live a few miles from work. And then all of a sudden, you get a chance to get a Mercedes. Mercedes better, Photon better? Which one's better? How many people say the Photon's better? How many people say Mercedes better? What do you want, the Mercedes or the Photon? Mercedes. Is the car for the body or the mind? Hold on. The car is for the body. Whether it's Mercedes or Photon, is that for the mind or the body? That's for the mind. Think about it. If you're driving a Mercedes, what are you going to think? Does it make any difference? Will it get you to destination A and B? Yes or no? Maybe a Photon is so badly made, it might not get you to destination A or B. But the job is to get you to destination A or B. Now, when you work your job, do you work hard for a Mercedes? Then what happens is you work so hard, you forget the purpose of your life, and you get your Mercedes finally. And did the Mercedes help you get Mukath? Did the Mercedes help you meet Waiguru? What good was the Mercedes, but it's what everybody wants. Why? Because the mind has confused its wants with the body's needs. I'll give you an example. When you dress up, would you rather have Versace? Or would you rather just get your clothes from down the street? Look, there is a balance in our life. Gurbani says, Karam tanam tum chopar sajo. It means how much karam you do is how much dharam you're supposed to do. Do you do that? If you work 8 hours a day, do you do Simran 8 hours a day? That's what Gurbani tells us to do. Karam tanam tum chopar sajo. Every day, if we don't remind ourselves, are we going ahead and doing stuff to reach Waiguru, or are we doing stuff for ourselves? So I'll just back you up real quick. So at your job, when you work your job, do you work your job because you want your praise, or do you work your job because you say Waiguru lives in this body, so I need to provide Waiguru with good things? A or B? A. Who lives in the body, the mind or Waiguru? Waiguru lives in the body. Mind is supposed to work for Waiguru, to do Waiguru Seva. But is the mind doing what it wants, or is the mind doing what Waiguru needs it to do? Is this making sense? This is the definition of dubda given in Gurbani. When you confuse what you need with what you want. The purpose of our life is to do what? Reach Waiguru. Who's supposed to reach Waheguru? It is the mind. How can the mind live in this world and reach Waheguru? It can't confuse with what it wants versus what Waheguru needs. Yes, Gurbani says you should have a nice house. You should have nice clothes. You should have a good car. You should have a good education. You should have all of these things. But if they are done without Naam, everything is not pavitra. It is impure. If you don't do it with the right intention, if you don't do it with Waheguru's hukam, then it is not pure. I'll give you another one just so you guys are well aware. When you get an education, because this one's a tricky one, is education for the mind or the body? Okay, so back up. I'll give you a clue on this one. Why does the mind need education? To keep the body? Why do you go to school? So you can get a good job. So why do you get a good job? So you can make a good money, so you can keep this body comfortable. So the education you get for your mind, who is the education supposed to be for? For who? It's for the body. Whether what school you go to, is that for the mind or the body? Whether you go to Harvard, whether you go to just Kuala Lumpur University, is that for the mind or the body? Look at all the things that bring you ego in your life. Education, the way we dress, the way we have things. Think about all the things we identify ourselves with. If you notice, the thing we identify ourselves with is stuff. If you take away the stuff, are you the same person or not? That's what we have to look at. So Gurbani says, before you came into this world, it was written that you were destined to die. It says you were blessed with the boon of life. You lose it because of dubda. This is the definition of dubda. It says because of your params, you cannot find yourself, and because of your params, you cry. Do you guys know what a param is? A param is your superstition. Like you have this idea in your head. So I'll give you an example. You guys go ahead. I think it happens a lot more in Asia than it does in the Western world. But let's say there's a black cat. It walks by. Are you allowed to cross the street? Yes or no? We are supposed to, but in America, they say, oh, don't cross the street. There's a black cat. The problem over here, there are cats all over the place, so if you don't walk across the street, you can't go anywhere, right? So what's a big param people have? What's a big superstition people have? What's that? I'm sorry, I can't hear you because of the... What's that? I can't... Okay, so I'll give you an example. Think about all the superstitions that you have, okay, just in general. My dad, when he was a kid and he would take an exam, there was a green shirt. And when he wore that green shirt, he always got an A. Okay? When he came to America, the servant forgot to pack the shirt. And you know what his biggest worry was? That he wouldn't pass the test because of his green shirt. Now, did the green shirt study for the test? So why does he attribute passing a test with a green shirt? Now, after he went ahead and passed his exam in America, then he realized the green shirt was just a myth he made up in his head. He attributed things to things that don't exist. For example, people will go ahead and they'll say, because I did this, I got that. Because I did this, I got that. Do you ever do that in your life? You said, I did this thing, therefore I got that. That is called a param. Let me give you an example. Everything Waheguru gives you is already written for you. Do you go ahead and treat God as Santa Claus? Meaning, God, if I come to you and I do X, Y, and Z, I'll get this? Or do you understand what Waheguru has given you a chance to meet him? How many of you made Waheguru into a superstition? That when I do my Japji Sahib, I get this, I get that. If I don't do Japji Sahib before my exam, I won't get this. Do you know people like this? Gurbani says that because of these params, this is the reason why people fail. Why haven't you gotten to the purpose of your life? Is because of params. People have all this conditioning placed on their mind. They don't understand how to reach Waheguru. Okay, so, one thing is, this is a definition from Gurbani on Dubda. I'll be quite honest with you. I knew what the definition was because Waheguru's inside of you and tells you the definition, but I didn't have the quote. And when I got the quote, I was very excited because it's exactly what it is. And one thing we have to do is we can't use English definitions for the terms we use in Gurmukhi. Language is one of those things that language can confuse us. But when you think about Dubda in the future, don't just use any dictionary. Use Gurbani. Gurbani gives us the definitions, okay? How do we get rid of our Dubda? Gurbani says we do Simran. Let's close our eyes. Let's put all our dhyan in our thun, and then we'll continue. Let's do our Simran. Let's make sure our mind doesn't wander, and we listen to our voice. Waheguru, 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 Waheguru. Waheguru, 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 Waheguru. Give some water. Guru, Waheguru, 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 Waheguru. Waheguru, 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 Waheguru. Waheguru, 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 Guru, Waheguru, 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 Waheguru. वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी का फतेह. Gurbani says our dubda because we confuse this fact. If I told you were going to die today, and I said, look, you have to do Simran because you know you're going to die today, what would be your focus all day? Doing the Simran. But Gurbani says none of us know when we're going to die. So we don't have that attention, we don't have that focus, because we don't remind ourselves that each breath could be our last breath. Gurbani says our mind is not stable because we are in dubda. We forget this fact that each breath is precious. That is the reason why our mind is not stable. Gurbani says this mind is fickle. E man chanchal vas na aave. This mind is fickle. It goes in 10 directions. Dubda lage dehi das tiave. It says it runs in these 10 directions. Why? Because you have dubda. You forgot what you came here to do. And when you forget why you came here or what your purpose is, then what happens is you lose out on this life. Kal's job is to divide and conquer. Kal's duty is to go ahead and make these 5 doots who work for Kal go ahead and make sure everything is divide and conquer. These 5 doots, they are underneath the jurisdiction of Kal. It says, Maya me Kal ar panch duta. It says these 5 doots, they work for Kal. Kam, Krodh, Lodh, Modh, Hankar. How do these 5 doots come? Gurbani says they have a role to play in 3 ways. One, they come as helpers. When the mind doesn't want to do something, it goes ahead and says these 5 doots come as asa, abhalasa, trishna, chinta, fikr. They come as hopes, wishes, desires, anxieties, or worries to make sure that things get done. For example, when I was a kid, if I didn't know my dad wasn't going to yell at us, we wouldn't get up. That's the reality. If you don't have a mortgage to pay, you don't go to work. If there's not food on the table, you're always worried. These 5 doots, they make sure that the mind does its job for the body. That's why Gurbani says they came as kasan, meaning as farm helpers. This body is called a farm. They came as helpers in this farm. Then Gurbani says they became very clever when they realized you don't know how to run the property correctly. They became thugs. And that's an English word we're used to. But the word thug means that you know how to destroy something or steal something from someone very cleverly. And the 5 thugs they came as was as Raj, Jat, Roop, Joban, and Mal. They came as power, Raj. They came as Jat, which is social status. They came as Roop, which is beauty. They came as Joban, which is youth. And finally, they came as Mal, which is wealth. These 5 thugs end up by going ahead and robbing you of your swas. Finally, the thing they loot you of, loot is another word in Gurbani over there, another thing they steal you of is your amrit. Inside of you is amrit. And that amrit inside of you is the thing that they loot you of. This amrit inside of you is the thing that they steal. How do they steal it? Through kam, krodh, lobh, modh, hankar. These things are called 5 chor. So when you look at your day of how these 5 dhoots have divided you, how they've conquered you, they go ahead and do it pretty systematically. I'll give you an example. This happens in America. I don't know if it happens here. In America, we have 2 political parties. We have Republicans and Democrats. Okay? Over here, do people identify themselves with one political party? I think there's only one political party to identify, right? But like, let's say in the Gurdwara, you ever see people say, oh, I'm part of this group, not this group? People identify saying, I'm part of this sanstha, I'm part of that sanstha. Gurbani says when you do that, that creates dubda. These 5 dhoots are the ones who are doing this, right? Another way they do it is they make religious sects. I'll give you an example. My favorite one, I was going through it today. I have a friend, he only listens to Kabir's Bani in Sri Guru Granth Sahib. He says, I only like Kabir's Bani. That's the only thing I'm going to listen to. That's the definition of dubda. Satguru Sri Guru Granth Sahib is Satguru. It's Puran, right? So if you value one page over another page, isn't that the definition of dubda? Yes or no? Is the beginning any different than the end? Yes or no? The value is the same. So the person who doesn't value each page the same is in dubda. Another big thing is family, caste, or ancestry. A lot of people, they go on and they say, my family did this, my family did that, my family did this, my family did that. In an effort to say that you're better than other people. You ever see people like this, yes or no? That is the definition of dubda. They said, oh, we've been Sikh this many generations, they trace back everything, this and that. Your family might have done these things, but what have you done? Finally, the other way we break things up is by gender. We say women can't do this, but men can do this. So far, I haven't seen it over here, but in Toronto, for example, they won't let women do satkar. You know why they won't let women do satkar? They said because women are impure because of the time of month that they have a visitor once a month. So for that reason, because of their period, they can't go ahead and be pure. This is how people think. Now, Guru Nanak Dev Ji got rid of that idea, but people still have it. Women are less than men. Men are better than women. For example, maybe this is more appropriate over here. We've seen discrimination in Sikhism based on if you're Punjabi or not Punjabi. I don't know if it happens over here, but when I was in Australia, there's the Malaysian Gurdwara, there's the Punjabi Gurdwara. That's the definition of dubda. Is that right? No. Okay, the other thing is on culture. Now, I came from America, but it doesn't mean my culture is better than your culture. Have you ever met people who say, oh, if you're in England, if you're in America, if you're in Canada, they do things better than they do it in Malaysia? Do you know people who think like that? Just because you have a culture or a way things are done, it doesn't make you less of a person than the way something is done someplace else. But people discriminate based on the culture. Now, I'm from outside. But it doesn't mean that I shouldn't have the opportunity to do seva. People from outside shouldn't talk down on the people because they have less exposure to things. Finally, we talked about it, school and education opportunities. Is everyone's opinion valued when you have a discussion? Or do people discriminate against educated versus uneducated? We have a situation in America and Canada where there's the doctor's Gurdwara, like in Australia they had the Malaysian Gurdwara, they had the Punjabi Gurdwara. In places in California they had the doctor's Gurdwara and the truck driver's Gurdwara. This is all the definition of Dubda. Because people confuse what Gurdwara was for. Is Gurdwara for educating the mind or going ahead and making a social club? Is Gurdwara for educating the mind or social club? So we have to learn how to get rid of this dubda. Who does this? Gurbani says, Kal yog mein tare, panch chor chagarai, kam, krodh, lobh, moh, abhaman, vadiyai. It says these 5 doots, they make political divisions amongst people. One thing I like about No Jawan Sabha is they are not political people. They invite everybody. When you get political, what happens is that is the definition of dubda. Who makes political divisions? Who say one group versus another group? It's only these 5 doots. How come these 5 doots exist? They only exist, they drive the mind when the Simran is not being done. So, let's close our eyes. Let's put all our dhyan in the ton. Let's focus on the Simran to drive out these 5 doots. Wah, Guru, Wah, Guru, Wah, Guru, Wah, Guru. Wah, Guru, 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 Guru, Vai 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 Guru. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. So just to recap everything, just so we can go over things, and then I'll take question and answers. I'm very sorry yesterday I wasn't able to take question and answers because I was feeling underneath the weather. First thing is, we're made up of three things: the mind, the body, and the... What's the third thing? Soul. The soul is no different than who? Waheguru. Boond mein sagar, sagar mein boond. It is the same thing. Who feels pain? Who feels suffering? Who needs to get liberated? Is it the soul, the body, or the mind? It is the mind. Who makes you you? Is it your body or your mind? Who makes you you? Your body or your mind? It's the mind. Now, are we here to get liberation, or are we here to accumulate stuff? We're here to get liberation. So when we work, do we work towards our goal of meeting Waheguru, or are we working towards our goal of having more stuff? So when we confuse our priorities, that's the moment our mind is in what? It's in? What are we in? Dubda. Dubda is what our mind is in. Who puts us in Dubda? There are two groups of people. The first guy who governs everything, his name is Ka. And who works under him? 5 dudes. Okay? So that just gives you a brief recap. When we do Simran, we take these 5 dudes away. If our mind can't stay stable, it's because we're in Dubda. Our mind is chanchal because our mind is in Dubda. So when we prioritize, when we do Waheguru, we should be doing Waheguru. When we read Nithanem, we should be doing Nithanem. When we listen to Kirtan, we should be listening to Kirtan. It shouldn't be you're doing Nithanem, then you're trying to do Waheguru. That's wrong. We're doing Nithanem to educate the mind. Remind ourselves what's important. We go ahead and do Waheguru so our mind becomes Jagath. That's the reason why we do Waheguru Guru Mantra. Okay? So I'm going to take a pause there. I think it's going to be easier for me to take questions outside. Is that okay with everybody? So let's go outside, and then whatever questions people have, we'll take them outside. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.